Hey guys, tonight, we begin with something a little different. We're stepping back in time to an era where the public bath wasn't just a place to get clean, but a bustling social hub where politics, gossip, and even power struggles took place. Yeah, you probably won't make it through the first day without a little bit of awkwardness, but hey, that's half the fun of history, right? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air is thick with steam as you step into the Ottoman public bathhouse, the kind you've only ever read about. The floor beneath your feet is warm, soft, and strangely slick. Your eyes take a moment to adjust, your surroundings a blur of dim lights, shadows, and the sounds of water splashing and murmured voices. You're not here for the spa experience. Not really, not the way we think of it today. No, you're stepping into something much bigger, something that's as much about status and society as it is about hygiene. First off, the heat. It's almost suffocating. The room is sweltering, the air heavy with a mixture of hot water and rose oil. The temperature is cranked up to a level that makes you feel like you're in the middle of a pressure cooker, and you're definitely not going to make it out without sweating, like you've run a marathon. But this isn't just a bath. This is where power plays out. The walls around you are made of gleaming marble, polished smooth, almost reflective. Perfect for catching a glimpse of yourself. All wet, all vulnerable. But it's not just your body that's exposed in here. You glance around, and the room is full of people, women, men, all types. Each one here for a different reason. Some are here to cleanse themselves after a long day. Others are making deals, while a few are definitely here to see and be seen. The bathhouse is a social space, and you quickly realize that what's happening here is a mix of self-care, gossip, and, maybe even more than a little power dynamics. It's almost a game, but not the kind of game you play for fun. Your survival here depends on your ability to blend in, to play along, to know when to laugh, and when to stay silent. History tells us that this was a place where alliances were made and broken over the course of a single bath, where betrayal could happen between two soapy whispers. And if you weren't careful, you might find yourself on the wrong side of a very long list. Now, the bathing process itself is, well, let's say it's not as luxurious as you might expect. You are scrubbed by attendants who take their job very seriously. You try not to flinch as the loofah, soaked in soap and a little bit of vengeance, scrubs away at your skin. It's not relaxing. No, it's not the kind of soothing rubdown you see in the movies. It's more like a vigorous cleaning, as if you're being prepared for something far more serious than just a hot bath. They're not there to pamper you. They're there to get the dirt off, and maybe, if you're lucky, not embarrass you too much while they do it. The attendants are incredibly efficient. They've done this 1,000 times, and they don't miss a spot. You can't help but notice how smooth and practiced their movements are, almost robotic, like they've been trained for this exact moment. If you try to sneak a peek at them, they'll catch you. Oh yes, they'll catch you. And remind you that this isn't a place for curiosity. It's a place for obedience. History is still debating whether these attendants were simply servants, or if they had a bit more power than that. Were they merely performing a task, or were they silently controlling the lives of the people they bathed? Historians still argue about the roles that attendants played in the greater political schemes of the Ottoman Empire. Were they part of a larger network, working their way up the social ladder? Or were they just doing a job, and nothing more? The truth might be somewhere in between. But one thing's for sure. In this bath, no one is truly anonymous. After the scrubbing, it's time for a soak. You move to one of the heated marble pools, your skin now tingling from the scrub, and slip into the warm water. It's surprisingly soothing, almost as if it's letting you forget about the chaos of the world outside for just a moment. As you submerge yourself, you realize that while the bath is about cleansing, it's also about something deeper. In this moment, it's easy to forget about everything. Your problems, your fears, the politics of the empire, everything. But even here, the tension never really fades. The bathhouse isn't a peaceful escape. It's a place where you can relax. Yes, but only if you're aware of the eyes around you. Everyone's watching everyone else. Who's talking to who? Who's sitting too close to the Sultan's favorite concubine? Whispers spread like wildfire in the thick steam. Here, every glance, every smile, every silent moment has weight. You are not just bathing, you are participating in the drama that unfolds in this room. Some people call it the soap opera of the Ottoman Empire, And honestly, you can see why. This is more than a bath. It's a microcosm of everything the empire stood for: wealth, beauty, politics, and power. If you weren't careful, you could find yourself entangled in the web of alliances and betrayals, your reputation tarnished by a single whispered conversation. But, for now, all you can do is sit back and let the warm water soak into your tired muscles. You try not to think about the politics of the moment, the power plays that will unfold over the next few hours. Instead, you focus on the heat, the soothing sensation of the water, and the faint smell of jasmine that clings to the air, mixing with the scent of soap and damp stone. The water is starting to cool now, and with it, you feel your senses sharpen again. The buzz of the bathhouse starts to become more pronounced, the sounds of splashing water, quiet conversations, and the occasional soft laughter. As you sit there, leaning against the smooth marble, you start to realize how much more is going on here than meets the eye. The moment you get out of the water, one of the attendants approaches you with a towel, wrapping it around your body with a practiced hand. It's clear now, you're not just here for cleansing, you're here for something far more complex. This bath is part of a much larger game. You follow the attendant to a warm stone slab, where you are gently pressed to lie down while another attendant works on your muscles, kneading out the tension. It feels like a massage, but with a purpose. They aren't just relaxing you, they're pushing you into a vulnerable position, a position of trust. As you close your eyes for a moment, you try to focus on the sensations, the heat, the pressure, the quiet hum of the room around you. But it's impossible to ignore the subtle undercurrent of competition. You realize that the more you pay attention, the more you understand that the public bath isn't just about luxury or relaxation. It's about status. Everyone here knows it. Some come to unwind, others to make deals. And there are those who come for something else entirely: power. The whispers start faintly, then grow louder, and soon you hear them clearly. A group of women nearby, all wrapped in silken towels, is talking about someone. Someone you don't know, but clearly someone important. Their voices are low, the words dripping with intrigue. They speak of a woman who has caught the Sultan's eye, a woman who has managed to do what no other has: stay alive and thrive in a world of deadly competition. At first, you don't think much of it. After all, this bathhouse is full of rumors. But as the conversation continues, you realize the significance of their words. This isn't just gossip, this is something far more serious. These women are making alliances, forming friendships that could secure their futures. And if you listen closely enough, you'll hear about their enemies too. The ones who've made missteps, the ones who've fallen from favor. You try not to eavesdrop too much, but history tells us that this is how power works in the Ottoman Empire. Silently, subtly, through whispered conversations and fleeting moments. Historians have long debated how much influence these bathhouse interactions had on the political maneuverings of the time. Was this just casual gossip, or was it a critical part of the empire's political machine? It's something historians still argue about today. But before you get too lost in the thought, one of the attendants gestures to you. It's time to move on. You stand up, reluctantly leaving the stone slab behind. Your skin feels strangely soft, almost as if the tension has been scrubbed away, not just from your muscles but from your mind. You follow the attendant as they guide you through the next part of the bathhouse, which leads to a large steam room filled with more people. The temperature hits you again as you step into the room. The steam is thicker here, and you can barely make out the silhouettes of people across the room. The air feels alive, pulsing with the sounds of quiet murmurs and soft laughter. This is where the most intense part of the day happens, where connections are made, where deals are sealed, and where those who are new or inexperienced are quickly taught their place. The room is divided into sections. On one side, older women, their skin marked with age and experience, sit together, chatting. On the other side, younger women, more recent arrivals, perhaps from distant parts of the empire, are gathered in smaller clusters, nervously observing the others. You can't help but notice the way the two groups interact. The older women, experienced and confident, talk openly, their voices carrying above the murmur of the steam. The younger women are quieter, their eyes darting around the room, trying to figure out where they fit in. It's in these moments that you start to realize just how much the bathhouse reflects the broader social structure of the empire. It's a place where youth and beauty are prized, but where experience, political savvy, and alliances are what truly determine your survival. Here, age is respected, but only because it brings power. The young may have beauty on their side, but the older women have influence, connections, and the ability to read the room better than anyone else. There's a strange feeling in the air, almost as if the steam isn't just coming from the water, It's coming from the tension that fills the room. You feel it too. The quiet pressure of being watched, the subtle expectations that weigh on your shoulders. If you're not careful, you might end up on the wrong side of a whisper, and that could mean the end of your time in the Sultan's palace. But before you can get too caught up in the thought, one of the women across the room catches your eye. She's older, with a sharp, calculating look in her eyes, but there's something about her that draws you in. She's watching you, assessing you, as if she's already figured you out. You can almost feel her mind working, wondering what your next move will be. You try not to look back, but it's too late. The game has already begun. You try to relax, but the atmosphere in the room is thick with meaning. Every glance, every word, has a weight to it. Here, in this hot, steamy room, survival is about more than just staying cool. It's about knowing how to navigate a world where every person is a potential ally or enemy, and where your next move could determine whether you rise or fall. Time seems to blur in the bathhouse, the steam wrapping around you like a blanket, the heavy warmth weighing on your thoughts. The minutes, or maybe hours, pass as you sit in the steam room, your mind racing with the interactions and subtle glances you've already witnessed. But there's a reason why this room feels so charged, why every word, every action, feels like it could change the course of your life. You notice now the way people move through the space. Some are leisurely, gliding from one section to another, while others seem to have a particular purpose, their eyes scanning the room for someone. You try not to draw attention to yourself, but it's impossible to ignore the way the older women lock eyes with you. They know. They can tell that you are new, that you don't yet understand the rules of the game you are playing in. It's a silent judgment, but one that's sharp and clear. And that's when you realize, you've entered a space where the game isn't played with money, land, or soldiers. Here, it's about alliances, words, and the ability to read the smallest social cues. The most powerful players don't make noise. They move in the shadows, navigating the currents of influence that ripple through the room without anyone even realizing it. You start to watch carefully, observing the unspoken dynamics of the bathhouse. The older women lean into conversations, their voices hushed but firm, like whispers of control. Meanwhile, the younger women, unsure but eager, hover around them, waiting for a word, a glance that will let them in. It's like a dance, a delicate balance of giving and taking, of offering just enough of yourself to seem approachable while maintaining an air of mystery. At one point, the woman who had been observing you earlier finally makes her move. She approaches with a slow, deliberate step, her eyes never leaving yours. There's something in her posture, something in the way she carries herself, that tells you she's no stranger to the politics of this place. She's a player. And for a moment, you wonder if you should be nervous or intrigued. "First time here, I assume," she says, her voice calm but piercing, as if she's already read your every thought. You nod, trying to stay composed, but your heart skips a beat. She's already sizing you up, determining where you fit in this elaborate game. "I thought so," she continues, her lips curling slightly in what could almost be a smile. "It's easy to spot the newcomers, but it's not the bath you need to worry about. It's the people in it. They can be more dangerous than the steam, more lethal than the heat." You swallow, unsure of how to respond. She isn't threatening you, not exactly, but her words carry a weight that makes you think twice about everything. "It's not about how much you know or how much you've been around," she adds, leaning in just a little closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's about how you play the game. If you don't know the rules, someone will teach you, whether you want it or not." She pauses, letting her words sink in before giving you a look that's both calculating and curious. "Stay aware," she says, before turning away. "And keep your eyes open, there's always more happening beneath the surface." With that, she walks off, disappearing into the thick fog of steam that fills the room. The words she left hanging in the air don't leave you. In fact, they echo in your mind as you sit there, absorbing the depth of her warning. This place isn't just a bathhouse. It's a microcosm of the empire, a space where power and survival are shaped by alliances, manipulations, and the subtle exchange of favors. You start to realize how much you've underestimated this place. It's not just about cleanliness or relaxation. It's about negotiation. It's a forum for the exchange of power, and the deeper you get into it, the harder it will be to find your way out. The sounds around you, soft laughter, the clinking of cups, the gentle flow of water, start to fade as you become absorbed in your thoughts. And just as quickly as you'd been thrust into this intricate web, you realize that there's no turning back. You're a part of it now, whether you like it or not. As you leave the steam room and walk back into the main area of the bathhouse, the reality of your position starts to settle in. The conversations you overheard earlier seem to take on new meaning. Every word is more than just chatter now. It's part of the strategy, part of the game. The stakes are higher than you could have imagined, and the consequences of your every move could shape your future in ways you can't yet predict. But there's no time to dwell on it now. The bathhouse is busy, filled with people coming and going, each with their own agenda. You can see the attendants guiding people to the next area, the conversations continuing without a break. The game is still ongoing, and you're just one piece in a much larger puzzle. As you step back into the changing area, you catch sight of a familiar face. It's the woman from before, the one who warned you. She's still watching you, though now there's a flicker of something in her eyes, an approval, maybe, or is it just another challenge? Her gaze lingers a moment longer before she turns and disappears into the crowd. You're left standing there, trying to process everything that's just unfolded. You came here expecting just a bath, just a simple ritual of cleansing. Instead, you've been drawn into a world where power isn't just something that's wielded. It's something that's carefully cultivated, negotiated, and maintained. As you gather your things and prepare to leave, you realize that the bathhouse will stay with you long after you've stepped out of its steamy confines. You may have come for cleanliness, but you've left with something much more valuable, a new understanding of how the world works. And who knows, maybe one day you'll return, stronger, wiser, and ready to play the game. For now though, you step out into the night, the cool air hitting your skin like a breath of fresh air. The bathhouse is behind you, but its lessons are just beginning. As you step outside into the cool night air, the contrast between the oppressive heat of the bathhouse and the crisp breeze feels refreshing. You take a deep breath, letting the chill of the evening ground you after the overwhelming experience you've just had. The steam from the bathhouse still clings to your skin, a reminder that you've crossed into a different world. But as you walk down the narrow cobbled streets, the weight of your thoughts is still heavy. You can't shake the feeling that you've been marked, an invisible imprint placed on your back, signaling that you're no longer an outsider in this world. You know that the knowledge you've gained from this experience is both a gift and a burden. You've seen the undercurrents of power, the subtle ways people assert their influence, and you've heard enough whispered secrets to realize that there's more at stake than you ever imagined. But there's still so much more to understand. The game has only just begun. As you make your way through the bustling streets, your mind races with what you've learned. The bathhouse wasn't just a place of hygiene, it was a stage, a silent theater where power was silently negotiated, traded, and contested. Every glance, every word, every seemingly innocent interaction had a purpose. The social structure that played out in the hot steam and cold marble was as carefully orchestrated as any royal court. And then there was the woman, the one who had spoken to you in the steam room. Her warning, her piercing gaze, had stuck with you, and now you're left with one question. Was she a friend, a foe, or something in between? Was she offering you a lifeline, or was she just letting you know that you were already part of the game? You can't be sure, but one thing is certain. If you intend to survive here, you'll need to figure that out soon. The night feels quieter now, as if the city itself is holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The bathhouse, far behind you, still echoes in your mind, but the rest of the world presses on. People bustle around you, going about their own business, but you can't help but feel like you're being watched. It's that same feeling from the bathhouse, the sensation of being a piece on a board, one move away from being a pawn, but always knowing that you could rise higher, depending on the choices you make. The next day comes with its own set of challenges. The bathhouse was just one part of the world, and as you continue your journey, you begin to see the broader picture. Power is a constant negotiation, one that requires more than just wit and charm. It requires understanding people's fears, their desires, and, most importantly, knowing when to act and when to wait. The people you met in the bathhouse are not just figures in a distant memory now. They're real, living parts of this world. You know that you'll see them again. Some of them might be potential allies, others might be enemies, and some may simply be neutral players in the game. But all of them will be factors to consider moving forward. As the days unfold, you find yourself watching more carefully, listening to more conversations, piecing together the subtle cues and gestures that others may overlook. You've learned the value of silence, the power of the unspoken. You've learned that being observant and patient can sometimes be more powerful than making grand gestures. But there are moments when doubt creeps in. You wonder if you're truly ready for what lies ahead. The bathhouse might have been a small, contained world, but the empire itself is vast, complex, and dangerous. Every step you take, every word you speak, can either elevate you or destroy you. The stakes are higher than you ever imagined. You start to wonder what your next move should be. Should you seek out the woman again, the one who offered you her cryptic advice, or do you keep your distance, as you've been warned, and focus on finding your own path? The day passes quickly, and the city seems to close in around you. The sights and sounds are overwhelming, but you find a strange sense of comfort in the chaos. This world, however unpredictable, is where you now belong. You've been marked by the bathhouse, but more than that, you've begun to mark it too. You can't go back to the way things were before. You've seen too much. And so, you continue, knowing that every step forward will bring you closer to understanding the true nature of power. What happens next? Well, that depends entirely on how well you play the game, and whether or not you're prepared to handle what comes with it. The woman's voice echoes in your mind again. Keep your eyes open. There's always more happening beneath the surface. You know, she was right. The bathhouse might have been just a beginning, but it's the world outside that will test your resolve. And in this world, the steam isn't the only thing that can suffocate you. As night falls again, you find yourself staring into the horizon, wondering just how far you're willing to go. The next morning, as the city begins to stir, you can't shake the feeling that you're being pulled in different directions. You wake early, the light from the rising sun filtering through the curtains, casting a soft glow over the room. The events of the bathhouse are still fresh in your mind, almost too vivid. The lingering warmth of the steam, the weight of those watching eyes, the whispered words that left their mark. It's as if you are standing on the edge of something far greater than you ever anticipated. You take a moment to gather your thoughts. Today will be the day you take a step forward. But where to begin? The choice feels almost overwhelming. You know that the key to moving forward lies in making the right alliances, choosing the right people to align yourself with, and of course, staying vigilant about those who may not have your best interests at heart. The city is vast, and it's easy to get lost in its streets, in its people. But you're beginning to realize that in a place like this, to get lost is a dangerous thing. The whispers, the alliances, and the shifting power dynamics are everywhere, and if you don't stay on top of them, you could be left behind. You decide to start small. Observing, you know enough to understand that power isn't always about making grand gestures. It's often about understanding the currents and knowing when to let them carry you. The day passes slowly, as you find yourself moving from place to place, quietly observing the people around you. You watch the subtle interactions between merchants and nobles, between servants and the elite. You notice who is speaking to who is laughing at what, and who is ignoring whom. Each small detail matters more than it might seem. As evening approaches, you find yourself back in a familiar part of the city, close to the bathhouse. Something pulls you back, like an invisible thread, urging you to return to the place where it all began. There's more you need to learn, more connections to be made. You know that if you want to survive, you'll need to immerse yourself in the game, and what better place to start than the one place where power is always in play. The bathhouse is busier tonight. The sounds of laughter and conversation mix with the echoes of footsteps on the marble floors. It's still the same. People moving in and out, each with their own agenda. But now, you're different. You've learned the rules, or at least some of them, and you feel more prepared to play. As you enter the steam room again, the familiar heat greets you, the vapor wrapping itself around your skin. You take a moment to settle into the space, watching the people around you. This time, you're more attuned to the subtle dynamics. You notice how some people sit just a little too close to the Sultan's advisors, how others avoid eye contact with certain figures. Every movement seems deliberate now, every word chosen with care. And then, you see her again, the woman who had warned you before. She's seated across the room, her posture as graceful and commanding as before. She's engaged in a quiet conversation with two other women, her eyes flickering between them with a sharpness that suggests she's analyzing every word they speak. You watch her for a moment, wondering if now is the time to approach her. But you hesitate. The woman isn't someone you can simply walk up to. She's a player in this game, and she plays by her own rules. If you approach her now, will you be seen as a potential ally, or just another pawn to be manipulated? The answer doesn't come easily. You feel the weight of the decision pressing on you, knowing that every action you take here carries consequences. And as much as you want to dive into the game, you understand that patience is often the key to survival. Instead of rushing in, you decide to watch. You keep your distance, but your eyes remain on her. The way she interacts with the others, the way her every movement seems calculated. There's a confidence in her that you envy, but also respect. You can learn from her, if you can figure out how to get close enough without making the wrong move. As the evening wears on, the steam room begins to empty, and you know it's time to leave. But before you can make your exit, you feel a shift in the air, a subtle change in the atmosphere. You glance around, your heart skipping a beat as you realize that the room has gone silent. Someone has entered, the door creaks open, and you see a man step inside. His presence is commanding, and immediately, the tone in the room changes. He's tall, his features sharp, his eyes dark and calculating. There's a quiet power about him, the kind that you can't ignore. The way the others react to his entrance tells you everything you need to know. He's important. Very important. The woman you've been watching reacts too. She sits up straighter, her eyes narrowing slightly as she assesses him. The two of them exchange a look, one that's brief but loaded with meaning. The room feels like it's holding its breath. Who is he? And why does he carry such an air of authority? The question lingers as you make your way out of the bathhouse. Your heart is racing. You've learned more in the past few hours than you thought possible. This man, whoever he is, has just entered the stage, and you know that his arrival changes everything. The game just got a little more complicated. Outside, the streets are quiet again, but your mind is racing. You can't afford to be passive anymore. There's too much at stake. You need to get closer to the woman, to understand the dynamics between her and the man who just entered. It's all part of the puzzle, and you're only just beginning to see the pieces fall into place. The evening's events are just the beginning. You know that soon, you'll have to make a choice, whether to dive deeper into this world or step back and take a quieter route. But one thing is certain, the game is moving, and you need to stay ahead of it. As you walk through the winding streets, the weight of the night's events lingers. The sight of the mysterious man, his commanding presence, and the look exchanged between him and the woman you had been observing. It's all running through your mind like a puzzle with too many pieces. You don't have all the answers, but you can feel that something is shifting in the air. This moment, however small it may seem, has altered the dynamics of your situation. What was once just a game of survival in the bathhouse is now a far more complex web of politics, power, and intrigue. The streets are quieter now, the sounds of the city fading into the distance as you find yourself on the outskirts of the market district. The cool air feels like a balm against your heated skin. But even in the calm of the night, you can't shake the sense that you're being watched. You glance over your shoulder, but the streets are empty. No one's there. Not physically, but the feeling remains. You've become a part of something larger, and once you've stepped into this world, there's no easy way to leave. You pause in the alleyway near a small cafe, thinking you could return to your quarters and rest, but the events of the evening keep pulling at your thoughts. This isn't just about the bathhouse anymore. It's not just about fitting in or figuring out who to talk to. It's about influence, how people rise, how they fall, and how those who understand the system can move the pieces around without ever lifting a finger. You can't go back to the way things were before. You've seen enough to know that. You've also seen enough to understand that power is more than just wielding it openly. It's about perception, and about controlling what others believe they know. Those whispers in the bathhouse, the subtle glances, the soft-spoken words, they were a part of a much larger plan, and you're now caught in its currents. Your thoughts are interrupted by a soft, almost imperceptible sound behind you. You spin around quickly, but it's only the wind rustling a piece of paper down the alley. You exhale, your heart still pounding from the adrenaline, but you know that it's not just the wind that's making your pulse race. It's the fact that you're more aware than ever of the dangers surrounding you. You can't afford to be naïve anymore. You've heard enough in the bathhouse, witnessed enough in the steam-filled rooms and marble halls, to understand the delicate balance of this world. The people who run things here, whether it's in the bathhouse or in the halls of power, don't do it by accident. They understand the art of manipulation, the delicate push and pull that keeps others in line, while they remain untouchable. Every move is calculated. Every step is part of a much larger plan. And that's what has you wondering. Are you simply a pawn, or can you become a player in this game? The question hangs in your mind as you make your way back to your quarters. You don't have all the answers yet, but you know that the key to survival will be understanding the intricate power structures that run beneath the surface. That means watching, learning, and aligning yourself with the right people. But it also means knowing when to act and when to wait. The next morning, you rise early. The streets are quieter now, the sun just beginning to cast its golden light over the city. Today feels different. Today feels like the day when you start making your own moves. You spend the day in observation, as you have in the past. You take note of the movements in the market district, the faces that pass by you on the streets. You observe how people respond to one another, who walks with authority, who lingers in the shadows, and who avoids eye contact altogether. The more you watch, the more you begin to see how carefully crafted the relationships around you really are. It's a delicate dance, and you're still learning the steps. You find your way back to the bathhouse once more, unable to resist the pull of the place that started it all. Tonight, it feels like the right time to take a more active role. The atmosphere is different tonight. There's an undercurrent of excitement in the air, a tension that you can't quite explain. You slip inside, moving carefully, keeping your movements measured and controlled. This time, you seek out the woman. You find her in a quieter corner of the bathhouse, surrounded by a few familiar faces. She's speaking with a group of men, nobles, by the look of their fine clothing and the way they carry themselves. You hesitate for a moment, but then you remember the warning she gave you before. Stay aware. This is your moment. You step forward, approaching the group slowly, deliberately. You can feel the eyes of others on you as you move through the room. And though it's subtle, you can tell that the energy shifts slightly as you draw near. The woman looks up as you approach, her sharp gaze meeting yours. There's an imperceptible flicker of recognition, and then a slow, measured smile forms on her lips. It's not warm, but it's not cold either. It's the kind of smile someone gives when they're sizing you up, trying to figure out what your move will be. "You've returned," she says, her voice low and calculating. "I wondered how long it would take." You feel a brief surge of confidence, but you keep your expression neutral. "I'm here to learn," you reply, your voice steady. "I thought it was time to start understanding the rules of the game." She leans back slightly, considering your words. "And what makes you think you're ready to play?" she asks, her eyes narrowing just slightly. You take a breath, but you stand firm. "Because I'm tired of being a spectator. I want to be a part of it. I want to understand how the pieces move." There's a long pause before she nods, almost imperceptibly. "Very well," she says. "But be warned, the game has its own rules, and they're not always kind to those who rush in without knowing what they're dealing with. If you want to play, you'd better be prepared for everything that comes with it." You nod in understanding. The weight of her words sinks in. You've taken the first step now. You have to be ready for the consequences. The game has officially begun. The next few days pass in a blur of observation and quiet preparation. The woman's words continue to echo in your mind. The game has its own rules, and they're not always kind to those who rush in without knowing what they're dealing with. You've started to understand that the stakes are higher than you could have imagined. This world isn't just about knowing the right people. It's about navigating a labyrinth of allegiances, betrayals, and silent power struggles. Your every move is calculated now. You're more conscious of the way you speak, the way you walk through the city, and the people you pass by. Every face feels like it could belong to an ally or an adversary, and each interaction could either strengthen your position or unravel it. The realization settles deep within you. Trust is a currency, one that is hard to earn and easy to lose. You can't afford to be careless anymore. You've started spending more time at the market district, observing the flow of commerce, the exchange of goods, and the way the influential people interact with the common folk. You've learned that power here is not only held by the elite, but also by those who control the flow of resources. Merchants, traders, and even servants wield influence in their own way, using their connections and knowledge to gain an edge in the intricate dance of the city's power dynamics. One evening, as you walk through the market, you spot a familiar figure in the distance. It's the man from the bathhouse, the one whose presence had shifted the atmosphere so dramatically that night. He's standing near one of the market stalls, speaking with a group of high-ranking officials. His posture is confident, his words measured and deliberate. He's not just a nobleman, he's someone who understands how to command attention and respect. You can't help but wonder about his role in all this. Is he a player in the game, or merely a figurehead? What do his interactions with the others say about his influence? You continue to watch from a distance, careful not to draw attention to yourself. The man's eyes occasionally scan the crowd, and you can't shake the feeling that he's aware of everything happening around him. The more you observe, the more you realize that he's not just engaging in small talk. Every word, every gesture is a carefully planned move. He's a master of the game, and he's playing it on his own terms. As the night falls and the market begins to quiet down, you decide it's time to make a move. You've been waiting for the right moment to approach him, and tonight feels like the night. You've learned enough from the bathhouse, enough from the people you've spoken to understand that there's value in proximity. You need to be seen, to be noticed by the right people. But more than that, you need to show that you're not just a passive observer anymore. You've crossed a threshold. You approach cautiously, moving through the crowd with purpose, trying to gauge the right moment to step into his orbit. As you draw closer, you catch a glimpse of his face. His features are sharp, his expression unreadable. He's talking to a few of the officials, but his gaze drifts, and for a moment it lands on you. A flicker of recognition passes through his eyes, and then he turns his attention back to the conversation. It's subtle, but you feel it. The shift in energy. He's aware of your presence. You don't rush. Instead, you wait. You let the conversation continue, giving him the space to notice you in his own time. You know that rushing in will only make you seem desperate, and that's the last impression you want to leave. Patience is your ally. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, he finishes speaking with the officials and steps away from the stall. You take a breath. Stepping forward, your heart beating faster now. This is it. Good evening, you say, your voice calm, but with a firm edge. His gaze flickers toward you again, and this time, there's no mistaking the interest in his eyes. Good evening, he replies, his voice low and controlled. I don't believe we've met. You smile, keeping your expression neutral. I don't believe we have either. My name is, your name. I've been observing the workings of the city, and I thought it might be time to introduce myself. His eyes narrow slightly, but there's no hostility in his gaze, only curiosity. Observing, you say? He asks, as if testing your words. And what have you observed, if you don't mind me asking? You take a steadying breath. This is the moment you've been waiting for, and you need to tread carefully. I've observed that power here is a delicate thing. Always shifting, always moving. It's not always the loudest voices that command respect, but those who know when to speak and when to listen. He raises an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. And what makes you think you're someone who knows when to speak and when to listen? You pause, measuring your words carefully. Because I'm someone who listens closely to what's said, and what's left unsaid. He studies you for a moment, as if weighing your words. Finally, he nods, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. You've been paying attention. Then, good, not everyone does. He takes a step closer, his presence even more commanding now. Tell me, your name. What do you hope to gain from all of this, from watching, listening, and speaking? His question hangs in the air, and you know this is the true test. How you answer will determine whether you sink or swim in this world. You meet his gaze, feeling the weight of the decision on your shoulders. Your answer could either solidify your position or send you spiraling down. There's no turning back now. I hope to understand the game, you say, your voice steady. And then, to play it. The man studies you for a long moment, and for a heartbeat, you wonder if you've said too much. But then he nods again, as if he's made up his mind. Very well. Let's see how well you play. With that, he turns and begins walking toward the deeper part of the market. His pace slow but purposeful. You hesitate for only a moment before following. You've just been pulled deeper into the game, and now, there's no way out. As you walk behind the man, you can't help but feel the shift in the air. There's a palpable sense of anticipation surrounding you now, as if the city itself knows that something has changed. The market is quieter at this hour. The once bustling stalls now deserted, save for a few late-night vendors packing up for the day. The man's steps are purposeful, his posture unwavering. You follow him closely, your every movement measured and controlled, aware that any misstep now could cost you. He leads you down narrow alleys, away from the main streets, and you quickly realize that the deeper into the city you go, the more the atmosphere changes. The crowds thin out, the buildings grow taller, more imposing, and the air seems heavier, almost thicker. It's as if you're entering a different world altogether. One that's hidden from the public eye, tucked away behind layers of secrecy and power. After a few minutes, you arrive at a nondescript door, tucked between two large stone buildings. The man glances over his shoulder at you, his expression unreadable. Stay close, he says simply, before he knocks twice on the door, a rhythmic pattern that seems to be some sort of signal. Moments later, the door creaks open, revealing a dimly lit hallway. Without a word, he steps inside, and you follow suit. The air inside is cooler, and the light is faint, filtered through small windows high above. The walls are lined with thick velvet drapes, and you catch the faint scent of incense in the air, a blend of sandalwood and something more exotic. The space feels private, secretive, and you instinctively know that whatever happens next is not for the eyes of the public. The man leads you down a corridor, past rooms where soft murmurs of conversation can be heard, though the voices are too muffled to make out any words. Finally, he stops at a large wooden door, intricately carved with symbols you don't recognize. He turns to you, his gaze locking with yours once again. This is where the real game begins, he says, his voice low. No one walks in here without being prepared for what they might find. You might think you've seen it all, but trust me, there's more to this city than even you can imagine. Are you ready for that? You nod. Your heart pounding, but your expression remains steady. There's no turning back now. You've come this far, and there's no going back. He opens the door, and you step inside. The room is unlike any you've encountered before. It's lavishly decorated, but in a subtle way, rich, dark woods, plush carpets, and velvet furniture. At the far end of the room stands a long oval table around which sit several figures. They're all dressed in fine clothes, their faces obscured by shadows, but their presence is unmistakable. You feel the weight of their gaze as you enter. And for a moment, it feels like you've just walked into the lion's den. The man you've been following steps forward and nods in their direction, acknowledging their presence without speaking. He doesn't need to. The silence in the room is thick with unspoken authority. You stand still, waiting for someone to speak. It's a woman who speaks first. Her voice is clear, commanding, yet calm. You've brought a newcomer, I see. How very interesting. She turns her gaze toward you, her eyes sharp, calculating. You can tell she's assessing you, sizing you up in a way that's both unnerving and oddly familiar. You've seen this before in the bathhouse, the way people observe and judge, looking for weaknesses or strengths to exploit. I've brought them because they've shown promise. The man you followed responds, his voice firm. They understand the importance of observation, of learning the rules before playing the game. The woman's lips curl slightly. Is that so? She stands, walking slowly toward you. And what exactly do you hope to gain from all of this? Newcomer, power, wealth, influence? You stand your ground, meeting her gaze with as much calm as you can muster. I hope to understand the game, and once I do, I plan to play it. Her expression softens ever so slightly, and she lets out a small, almost imperceptible laugh. Confidence, that will serve you well here. She pauses for a moment, and the room falls into silence. But the question is, are you ready for what comes with playing? It's not just about making the right moves. It's about knowing when to strike and when to retreat. Understanding who to trust and when to betray. There's a chill in her words, but also an undeniable truth. You've seen the way things work in this world. The subtle power plays, the whispers, the alliances formed and broken in a single moment. You understand that now. You understand that survival here isn't about what's right or wrong. It's about what you can get away with. The man who led you here watches quietly, his expression unreadable, but you sense that he's waiting for your response, waiting to see if you truly understand what you've stepped into. I'm ready, you say firmly, though you can feel the weight of the words. The truth is, you're not entirely sure if you're ready. No one could be. But this is the moment you've been waiting for. You can't show weakness, not now. The woman nods slowly, as if she's pleased by your answer. We'll see about that. Welcome to the inner circle. She turns to the others, her tone shifting, commanding. Prepare the next phase, we have much to discuss. The room shifts, the tension in the air palpable. You're no longer an outsider. The game is no longer just something you watch, it's something you've now been pulled into. The people around you have power. They move in shadows, pulling the strings of the empire without ever being seen. They play the game on a scale you've only begun to comprehend. And now, you're part of it. You've crossed the threshold, and with it comes the realization that there's no going back. What happens next? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, you are no longer a mere player. You've entered the heart of the game. The door closes behind you with a soft thud, sealing you inside this new world. The figures seated around the table begin to speak in hushed tones, their words a language you're still struggling to fully understand. You stand there for a moment, unsure of your place in the room, but the woman who spoke to you earlier gestures for you to sit. You take a seat at the table, acutely aware of the weight of their gazes on you. The man who brought you here remains standing, observing the dynamics of the room, his arms crossed. The atmosphere is charged, like a pressure building before a storm. There's no warmth here, no kindness. This isn't a place for pleasantries. It's a space where power is forged, alliances are made and broken, and the stakes are higher than you could have imagined. The woman who first spoke turns her attention back to you. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, never leave your face. Now that you're here, you'll learn how this world truly works, she says. Her voice cold and deliberate. The bathhouse you came from, the people you've met, those are just the surface. The true power lies beneath, where few can see. But you're not here by chance. You've shown potential. Now it's time to see if you're capable of handling the responsibility that comes with it. The silence hangs heavy in the room as she waits for your response. You're no stranger to challenges, but something about her words feels different. There's a weight to them, a significance that you can't quite place. This isn't just about learning how to survive anymore. This is about understanding the deeper currents of power, the hidden forces that shape the empire, and you're about to be thrust right into the heart of it. I'm ready to learn, you say, keeping your voice steady. You feel the pressure of the moment, but you know that showing hesitation would be a fatal mistake. She nods, satisfied with your answer, and then turns her attention to the other figures at the table. The room shifts as the others start to speak. They talk about matters of politics, trade, and influence. Discussions that seem far beyond your understanding. Yet you know you must grasp them if you want to stay in this game. The man who brought you here speaks next. His voice is calm but authoritative. We've been watching you, he says. You've shown a knack for observation, but that's not enough. You'll need more than just eyes and ears. You'll need to learn to read the room, to understand the subtleties of every interaction. One wrong move, and everything can come crashing down. But if you play your cards right, you'll have a hand in shaping the empire itself. You can't help but feel a thrill at his words. The prospect of being part of something so much larger than yourself is intoxicating. You've felt it before, the power of influence, the thrill of understanding the game. But this is something else entirely. This is a world where the stakes are higher than you ever imagined. You'll start with small tasks, the woman says, her tone shifting slightly. Learn who's who holds power, and who's just trying to ride the coattails of the powerful. The more you learn, the more you'll be trusted, and when the time comes, we'll see if you're ready for the next step. She stands, signaling that the meeting is coming to a close. The other figures begin to rise. Their expressions unreadable. You can feel the weight of their silence as they leave the room, and as the door shuts behind them, you realize you're left alone with the man who brought you here. You've made the right choice, he says, his voice low. Now, it's up to you to prove that you can keep up. You nod, but inside, your mind is racing. The room, the people, the weight of the decisions ahead. It all feels overwhelming, yet thrilling. The power you've just glimpsed is within your reach, but so is the danger that comes with it. You don't know yet who you can trust, who might betray you when the time comes. But one thing is clear. There's no turning back now. As you make your way out of the building, the cool night air hits you like a shock to the system. The streets are quieter now, the city almost eerily still. You can feel the weight of your next move bearing down on you. The empire is vast, but every step you take brings you deeper into the web of power that holds it together. You're no longer an observer. You're a player in the game, and now, it's time to see how far you can rise, or how quickly you can fall. You've learned enough to know that in this world, trust is earned, not given, but so is power. And if you're going to make it, you'll need to learn how to navigate both. The next steps are uncertain, but one thing is clear. You'll need to move carefully, cautiously. Every move counts, and one wrong step could cost you everything. But for now, you'll play the game as best you can, learning the rules as you go, until you're no longer a pawn, but a force to be reckoned with. As you walk through the silent streets, a sense of purpose settles over you. The game has begun, and you're in it, whether you're ready or not. The days blur into each other as you immerse yourself in the world you've just stepped into. You've learned that, in this game, time moves differently. Every minute is filled with significance, every conversation laced with potential meaning. You've been given small tasks to complete, each one designed to sharpen your understanding of the city's intricate network of power and influence. It's not easy. Every step is calculated, every word measured. The people you interact with are careful, guarded, like players in their own right, always calculating the risks before they take action. You've learned to listen more than you speak, to observe how people react to certain gestures, how they respond to questions, how they position themselves in relation to others. In a world like this, silence can be as powerful as speech. But as the days pass, you begin to notice patterns. The city is a web of connections, with the highest power resting in the hands of those who know how to manipulate the threads. The people in the shadows, the ones who know how to move unnoticed, are often the ones with the most influence. You've met a few of them during your tasks, merchants with far more connections than their outward appearance suggests, servants who move in and out of the palaces with ease, and noblemen who speak in riddles, masking their true intentions. Each encounter teaches you something new. Each interaction is another puzzle piece falling into place. You begin to recognize the importance of reputation, how your name can open doors or slam them shut depending on how it's perceived. The woman who first welcomed you into this world has kept her distance, though you still feel her watchful presence. She's a player in this game, no doubt. But you've yet to learn what side she's on, if there is even such a thing as sides in this labyrinth of shifting loyalties. One evening, you're summoned again. The message comes in the form of a sealed letter, delivered by one of the attendants who has been keeping an eye on you. You've learned to trust the smallest details, and the way the attendant presents the letter speaks volumes. It's urgent, important. You don't hesitate to open it. The letter simply reads, "Come to the meeting hall at dusk. Do not be late." No signature, no elaboration. But you know exactly what it means. You've been chosen for something, perhaps a test, or maybe an opportunity. Either way, the game is advancing, and you need to be prepared. As the sun begins to set, you make your way to the designated meeting hall. The streets are dimming, shadows stretching across the cobblestones, and the sounds of the city are starting to quiet down. This part of the city feels different, more secretive, less traveled. You arrive at a large wooden door, intricately carved, and knock twice, as you've been taught. The door creaks open, and you step inside. The hall is dimly lit, the walls adorned with tapestries depicting scenes of battles and triumphs, though their meaning is lost on you. At the far end of the room, you see the familiar faces of the people you've been introduced to. The woman, the man who brought you here, and several others you don't recognize. They're seated around a long table, their eyes on you as you enter. The woman rises first, her expression unreadable. "You're on time," she remarks, though her tone is neutral. "Good. That's the first test." You stand still, waiting for the next command. "The time has come for you to prove yourself," she continues. "We've watched your progress, and now it's time for you to take a more active role in the game. You'll be given a task, one that requires careful thinking, quick decision making, and, most importantly, the ability to execute without hesitation." The man who brought you here speaks up, his voice steady. "This task will determine whether you're ready for the next phase. If you succeed, you'll gain access to more important matters. If you fail, well, let's just say the consequences will be dire." You can feel the weight of his words, but you stand firm. There's no room for hesitation now. You've come too far to back down. "Your task is simple in theory," the woman says, her eyes narrowing slightly. "There is a nobleman who has been causing trouble. He's become too ambitious, too vocal. He's been making enemies in the wrong places, and he's now a liability. We need him out of the picture, but we can't afford to be seen as the ones behind it. Your job is to handle it discreetly." Your mind races, but you keep your face neutral. The challenge before you is clear, but the complexity of it isn't lost on you. To remove this man without drawing attention is no small feat. You'll need to be careful, calculated, and precise. It's not just about eliminating a threat. It's about doing so in a way that preserves your position, and that of those who are watching you. "You'll have 3 days," the man adds, his voice low. "We'll be watching, but we won't intervene. The clock is ticking." You nod, acknowledging the weight of the task at hand. There's no turning back. This is your moment to prove that you belong in this game. To succeed means gaining the respect of those around you, but to fail means being cast aside, lost in the shadows. The woman speaks once more, her voice cold and calculating. "We'll be expecting results. Do not disappoint us." With that, the meeting is over, and the others begin to leave, disappearing into the shadows of the hall. You stand in the empty room for a moment, letting the gravity of the task sink in. You've been given a chance, an opportunity to rise further, but with it comes the danger of failure. This is your test, one that could either secure your place in the game or cast you into obscurity. You take a deep breath and exit the hall. The city outside seems unchanged, but you know that everything has shifted. You now have a target, a mission, and a deadline. The next few days will determine whether you rise or fall. The game is in your hands now. The streets are dark and quiet as you leave the meeting hall. The weight of the task hangs heavily on your shoulders. You've been handed a chance to prove yourself, but the consequences of failure are clear. It's one thing to be a player in the game. It's another to be a successful one. The nobleman you've been tasked with removing is a liability, and you need to make him disappear, quietly and efficiently, without anyone connecting it to you. As you make your way back through the dimly lit streets, your mind races with possibilities. The challenge is simple in theory, but the execution will be tricky. How do you deal with a man who has power, influence, and connections? Without drawing attention to yourself, who can you trust? And most importantly, how do you ensure your actions won't come back to haunt you? You know you can't do this alone. The city is full of people with their own interests, their own motives. You'll need to find allies, people who can help you carry out this task without being seen or noticed. But finding the right ones is just as dangerous as doing the task itself. You'll need to read people carefully, figure out who can be trusted, and who will only betray you when it benefits them. The next day, you begin your investigation. You learn more about the nobleman's habits, his daily routines, and his relationships with others. You speak with a few informants, people who are skilled at gathering information from the shadows. They're cautious, but they're eager to share what they know, for the right price. Of course, you've learned quickly that in this world, everything has a price, and nothing is given freely. The nobleman is a well-known figure, not just for his political ambitions, but for his numerous rivalries. His enemies are many, which means you have a wealth of options. You don't need to make it personal. All you need to do is make it look like someone else is doing. But who would benefit most from his removal? That's the question that burns in your mind. You begin to meet with potential allies, people who have grudges against the nobleman, or those who stand to gain from his downfall. Each one has their own agenda, their own way of manipulating the situation to their advantage. But the more you listen, the more you realize that this world operates on a delicate balance of favors. One wrong move, and you could tip the scales against yourself. The first person you meet is a merchant who's been slighted by the nobleman in the past. The nobleman's interference with his business dealings has caused him financial ruin, and now he's desperate for revenge. He's eager to help you, but his assistance comes with a price. He wants a guarantee that, if you succeed, he'll be compensated. You're not sure if you trust him completely, but he's one of the few who has the means to help you. You'll need to tread carefully. Make sure the deal is beneficial for both of you. The second person you meet is a former associate of the nobleman, someone who has fallen out of favor with him. She's bitter, angry, and willing to do whatever it takes to make him suffer. Her motives are more personal than the merchant's, but she's dangerous. She has knowledge of the nobleman's weaknesses, his private affairs, the people he's wronged. She could be useful, but you need to be cautious. She's motivated by revenge, and that can cloud judgment. The final ally you approach is a servant who works within the nobleman's household. She's young, quiet, and seems harmless at first glance, but she knows the inner workings of the household better than anyone. She's seen the nobleman's habits firsthand, where he goes, what he does, and most importantly, when he's most vulnerable. She's willing to help you, but only if you promise to protect her. She's afraid of what might happen if the nobleman finds out she's been assisting you. The more you learn, the more the pieces start to fall into place. Each of these potential allies has something to offer, but each also comes with their own risks. You can't afford to trust anyone completely, but at the same time, you can't do this without their help. The day of the task arrives. You've made your decision, you've chosen your allies, and you've devised a plan. The nobleman is hosting a private gathering that night. It's an opportunity to strike when he's surrounded by people who might provide a cover, but also when he's in a vulnerable position. His guard is down, his ego inflated by the presence of those who admire him. You decide to confront him at the gathering, but you won't do it directly. Instead, you'll use your allies to create the distraction, to set things in motion. The merchant will provide a subtle distraction, ensuring that the nobleman is preoccupied with business matters, while the servant will ensure that the path to his private quarters is clear. The former associate will help create the necessary atmosphere, something that will make the nobleman feel secure, perhaps overconfident, allowing you to take the necessary action without raising suspicion. The night is dark as you make your way to the nobleman's residence, heart pounding. You can't afford to hesitate now. Every move you make, every second you delay, could unravel the carefully laid plans. You arrive at the estate, your allies positioned in their respective places, and you slip inside, moving through the shadows. The mansion is silent, except for the occasional sound of laughter and conversation from the gathering. You make your way to the nobleman's private quarters, where you know he'll be alone soon. As the time draws nearer, you take a deep breath. You know that if you succeed, your position will be solidified, and you'll gain the trust and respect of those who've been watching. But if you fail, the consequences are unthinkable. You reach the door, the final step between you and your objective. With one last glance around, you prepare yourself for what's next. The game has been set, and the pieces are all in motion. All you need to do now is make your move. The door creaks open with a soft, almost imperceptible sound, as you step into the nobleman's private quarters. The flickering light from candles on the desk casts long shadows across the room, giving the space an air of intimacy, of quiet power. The rich scent of wine and incense hangs in the air, masking the tension that builds inside you. You can hear the faint echoes of laughter and clinking glasses from the gathering outside, unaware of the gravity of what's about to unfold within these walls. Your breath steadies as you move deeper into the room. You're close now, closer than you've ever been to your goal. The nobleman is seated by the fire, his back to you, discussing something with one of his associates. You can feel the weight of his presence, his arrogance that has made him so dangerous in the past. He's comfortable here, at home in his own domain, and for a moment, it makes you hesitate. But only for a moment. You've worked too hard for this. You've built alliances, planned every detail, and positioned yourself perfectly. Now, there is no room for doubt. As you approach, you pause. Taking a steadying breath, there are no second chances. You must move swiftly, decisively, and without hesitation. The plan is in motion, and it cannot be stopped. Your ally, the servant, has already cleared the path, ensuring that no one will interrupt you. The former associate's distraction has drawn the nobleman's attention away from his immediate surroundings, and the merchant's small, well-timed maneuver has guaranteed that the nobleman will feel secure, perhaps even overconfident. In his solitude, the atmosphere is right, the pieces aligned, it's time. You step forward, silent as a shadow, until you're standing directly behind him. He doesn't notice you at first, too wrapped up in his conversation. For a brief moment, you consider confronting him, perhaps with words, with some clever twist of fate. But no, that's not how this works. There is no room for speeches in this world. Only action. You move swiftly, your hand steady as you make the final approach. You've been prepared for this moment for days, weeks even. Everything you've learned, every detail, has led to this. The nobleman's arrogance, his belief in his own invincibility, is his greatest flaw, and you will use it against him. The task is simple. Remove him without leaving a trace. You're here to make sure that the man who once thought himself untouchable disappears from the game. As he turns to face you, his expression shifts from one of mild curiosity to something far darker. Recognition, realization. You. His voice is low, filled with a tinge of disbelief, but the words fade quickly as his eyes narrow. You're the one behind this, aren't you? You don't answer. Words aren't necessary. With one swift motion, you neutralize him, ensuring that his voice will never be heard again, that his ambitions will never rise to fruition. The room is still, almost eerily so, as his body slumps forward, his final breath cutting off in the silence. The deed is done. You stand over him for a moment, the weight of your actions settling in. There's no time for reflection now. You know what comes next. The nobleman's absence must be filled without question. His death covered up seamlessly. The city cannot know that someone has been removed from the game, or that someone else has moved into their position. It must all seem natural, ordinary, as if nothing has changed at all. You move quickly, positioning his body carefully, making sure that when they find him, it will look like an accident. It's a delicate thing, cleaning up after yourself in a place like this. One wrong move and the entire plan could unravel. But you've been meticulous, every detail accounted for. You step back, surveying your work, and for a brief moment, you let yourself feel the rush of success. You've done it. You've eliminated the threat, moved the pieces of the game, and secured your place in this world. The tension in your chest loosens, but only for a second. You can't afford to linger. The hall outside is quieter now. Your allies have completed their parts of the plan, ensuring that the nobleman's death will be concealed, and the story that follows will fit neatly into the web of lies and manipulation that keeps this city running. You slip out of the room and into the shadows of the mansion, blending back into the darkness as you retrace your steps. As you leave the estate, the night air feels colder, sharper. The city around you is still asleep, unaware of what has just transpired. But you know that things have shifted. You've changed the game, even if the players don't realize it yet. You can feel the weight of the task, the consequences of your actions. The game is far from over. You've made your move, but the board is vast. There are more players, more pieces to manipulate, and more challenges to face. This world, this empire, runs on power, and power must be taken. But tonight, you've proven that you can play the game. As you make your way through the darkened streets, you know that you'll need to be even more careful from now on. You've gained the trust of those who've been watching you, but that trust can easily turn into suspicion if you don't tread lightly. This city is filled with eyes, all watching, all waiting for someone to slip. But you've made it this far, and now, the city is yours to navigate. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but tonight, you've earned your place in this world, and in this game. That's all that matters. The silence of the night continues to press in around you as you make your way through the streets. Your steps measured and purposeful. The city is still, but you know that the ripples of your actions have already begun to spread. You've crossed a line now, and there's no turning back. The nobleman is gone, and his absence will leave a void that others will soon notice. But you've ensured that no one will know the truth. Not yet, at least. The shadows of the city feel different now. You're more aware of the people around you, the whispers that flow through the streets, the way people move when they think no one is watching. The game you've just participated in was far from a one-time event. It was a marker, a shift in the power dynamics of this world, and you've made your mark on it. But that mark could easily turn into a target if you're not careful. The city feels like a living, breathing organism, its heartbeat thumping quietly beneath the surface. Every moment is a part of the dance, and you're just one of many players moving through it. But now you're no longer just an observer. You've taken action, and the ripples you've caused will begin to shape the future. But the question remains, who will benefit from your success, and who will become a threat because of it? As you return to your quarters, the weight of the night's events starts to sink in. The plan worked, but it wasn't just the action that made it successful. It was the careful calculation behind every step. You've learned that power here isn't just about strength. It's about perception. It's about moving in the shadows, pulling strings, and keeping your actions hidden in plain sight. You take a moment to sit by the window, staring out into the dark city. It's quieter now, almost serene, but you know that beneath the stillness, the game is already shifting again. You've proven that you're capable of making the right moves, but that doesn't mean you can rest. In this world, power is fleeting, and it's easy to lose what you've gained if you're not vigilant. The woman who first introduced you to this world will be watching, as will the man who guided you this far. But they are not the only ones. There are others in the shadows, those who are always looking for an opening, a weakness to exploit. You've made yourself a player, but the game is far from over. It's just beginning. The next day, as the sun rises and the city slowly awakens, you receive a message. It's short, simple, and to the point. The task has been completed. The next step awaits. There's no signature, no further explanation. But you understand what it means. You've done your part, but the next phase of the game is upon you. The pieces have moved, but now you must decide how to position yourself. The world around you is shifting, and you'll need to act quickly to capitalize on the opportunities that arise. You've learned the first lesson of power. It's not enough to just take action. You have to control the narrative. You have to ensure that the right people see what you want them to see, and that the right actions are attributed to the right causes. It's all about perception. The nobleman's death may have been a necessary step, but it's only the beginning. The story that follows will determine how the world views you. You begin to make your preparations. You can feel the pull of the game. Like a magnet, it draws you in. You'll need to start positioning yourself among the next set of players. You'll need to forge new alliances, strengthen your existing ones, and watch for the smallest signs of weakness in those around you. The city is full of potential allies, but just as many enemies lurk beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Your mind races as you think of your next steps. You can't afford to act too quickly. You've learned that, in this world, patience is often the greatest weapon. You must let the pieces fall into place naturally, but you also must be ready to act when the opportunity presents itself. You decide to visit the market district again, to see how the winds are shifting, to observe the people who might be moving in response to the power vacuum created by the nobleman's disappearance. You need to gauge the reactions of the city's movers and shakers, see who stands to gain, and who might start making moves against you. As you walk through the familiar streets, you notice the subtle changes already taking shape. A merchant you've spoken with before is talking to someone new, a figure you don't recognize. Their conversation is hushed, but the tension in the air is palpable. A sense of unease lingers in the distance, like a storm brewing on the horizon. There are whispers in the air, rumors spreading quickly. People are beginning to talk about the nobleman's death, although not in the way you'd expect. They're talking about it as if it were an accident, an unfortunate incident, a coincidence. But you know better. You know that someone out there will soon start asking questions, trying to uncover the truth. It's only a matter of time before someone pieces together the puzzle, and when that happens, you'll need to be ready. The game is never over. It's only paused for a moment and then it begins again. Every decision, every action, has consequences that ripple outward, affecting the players in ways they can't always anticipate. The city is changing, and so are you. You've made it this far, but the real test is yet to come. The stakes have risen. The next move you make will determine whether you continue to climb or fall from grace. You've made your mark on this world, but now you must decide how deep you're willing to go, and how much you're willing to risk to win. The days following the nobleman's death pass with a quiet intensity. The city feels different, as if the air itself has shifted in response to the absence left behind. People are uneasy. Whispers travel faster than they ever did before, and the feeling that something is changing pervades every conversation. Every glance you know better than to think it will stay quiet for long. In a place like this, power vacuums don't remain empty. Others will move quickly to fill the space, and many of them won't care how it's done, as long as they come out on top. The world of shadows you've entered isn't kind to those who hesitate. You can almost feel the tension in the city, as if it's holding its breath, waiting to see who will make the next move. It's time to take action. You've already proven your worth, made your mark, but now you must solidify your position. You can't let the opportunity slip through your fingers. The next step is crucial. As you make your way through the city's winding streets, you start thinking about the people you've encountered: the merchant, the former associate, and the servant. They each hold a piece of the puzzle, but you can't rely on them for too long. Alliances are temporary, and everyone has their own agenda. You've learned that power is fluid, and today's ally could quickly become tomorrow's enemy. Your ability to read people, to predict their moves, is just as important as knowing how to move the pieces yourself. You decide to meet with the merchant first. You've had dealings with him before, and he's proved useful in gathering information. But now, you need more than just information. You need to know where he stands in the shifting dynamics of the city. The merchant is well connected, but his loyalties are still in question. You arrange to meet him in one of the quieter corners of the market district, a place where traders often conduct their business away from the prying eyes of the public. It's a risky move. Arranging meetings in places like this can easily attract attention, but you know it's a risk worth taking. You need to gauge where his true loyalties lie, and if he's willing to be more than just an informant for you. As you approach the designated meeting spot, you see him waiting by a small stall, his hands casually sorting through goods as if nothing were amiss. He notices you immediately, his eyes locking onto yours with a knowing gaze. You walk toward him, keeping your movements deliberate and controlled, ensuring that you're not drawing any unnecessary attention. "You've been busy," the merchant says, his voice low and tinged with amusement. "I can tell. The city's already buzzing about the nobleman's death. It won't be long before everyone starts pointing fingers." You nod, not needing to say anything in response. You know what he's getting at. The whispers are already starting, but so far, no one seems to be looking your way. But that won't last. Eventually, the truth will surface, and you need to control the narrative before it spins out of your hands. "I'm not here to talk about rumors," you reply, keeping your voice steady. "I need to know where you stand." Merchant, you've always been a valuable source of information, but this is different. The city is shifting, and I need to know if you're going to be with me when the time comes, or if you'll be looking for your own advantage. He looks at you for a moment, the flicker of a smile crossing his face. Always straight to the point. I admire that. He pauses, glancing around before lowering his voice even further. "I've been watching the same shifts you've noticed. The nobleman's death has created a space, but it's not just one person who's going to try to take it. It's a game of many players, and I'm not the only one who sees the opportunity. But let me be clear. I'm not looking to just ride on someone else's coattails. I'm looking for a deal that will make me stronger, not just wealthier." You nod, understanding exactly what he's saying. He's no fool. The game isn't just about wealth or influence. It's about securing your future, and he's hedging his bets, just like you are. But the question remains, will he stick with you, or will he strike out on his own when the time is right? "You'll have a chance," you say, your eyes narrowing slightly. "But it's going to take more than just information to win this game. I'm looking for partners, not pawns. If you want to remain valuable to me, you need to be more than just a messenger. You need to be an ally." The merchant considers your words for a moment, then nods. "I can do that. But know this, I don't trust anyone completely, and I won't follow blindly. If this deal doesn't suit me, I'll move on. But for now, let's see how this plays out. I'll keep my ear to the ground, and when the time comes, I'll make my move." You extend your hand, sealing the deal. He shakes it firmly, the understanding between you clear. For now, he's on your side, but only for as long as it benefits him. This alliance, like all others, is fragile, but it's still a useful one, and you'll take what you can get. As you part ways, you can't shake the feeling that the merchant isn't as loyal as he seems. There's something in the way he talks, something in the way he watches you, that suggests he's always calculating, always looking for the next opportunity. It's something you'll need to keep an eye on. Your next move is to speak with the former associate. She's the one with the most personal stakes in the game, and she's motivated by revenge. You know that her bitterness will drive her actions, but that bitterness could be an asset or a liability. You need to find out where her true loyalties lie, and whether she'll be willing to work with you or against you. The game is moving faster now. The pieces are shifting, and you must decide how to position yourself. Will you rise to the top, or be swept away in the wake of those more powerful than you? The choices you make in the coming days will determine your fate in this city. And the clock is ticking. The city feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for the next move. The nobleman's death was just the beginning of a much larger game, and you've made the first successful play. But now the real work begins. The pieces on the board are shifting faster, and the danger is more palpable. You've seen how quickly loyalties can change, how fragile alliances are when the stakes rise. You leave the merchant's stall with the weight of his words still lingering in your mind. He's no fool, and neither are you. But for now, he's useful, and that's all that matters. There's more to do, and the next person you need to see is the former associate, the one with the personal vendetta against the nobleman. She's dangerous, and she's driven by a desire for revenge. But that could either be a powerful tool or a dangerous liability. You can't afford to underestimate her. You arrange a meeting in one of the less traveled parts of the city, an old tavern where the shadows stretch longer than the light. The place is empty when you arrive, the dim flickering of the lanterns casting strange shadows across the worn wooden floors. You take a seat at a corner table, your back to the wall, watching the door. This isn't a place for pleasantries, and you know that the conversation ahead will be anything but comfortable. It doesn't take long before she walks in. The former associate is exactly how you remember her: sharp eyes, tense posture, and an air of bitterness that clings to her like a second skin. She looks around the tavern before spotting you and making her way over without hesitation. The moment she sits down, you can feel the tension crackling between you. "You've made quite an impression," she says, her voice low, a hint of a smile playing at the edges of her lips. "But there's no warmth in it. I didn't think you had it in you." You meet her gaze steadily, knowing better than to let her probe you too easily. "I'm here because we have unfinished business. You wanted him gone, and I made sure that happened. But now it's time to talk about what comes next." She leans back in her chair, studying you carefully. "You're a lot more calculating than I thought. I expected someone more impulsive. Someone who acted without thinking. But you've proven you can be a player in this game. I respect that." You don't smile. Respect isn't what you're after. You're after loyalty, and you know that's something you'll have to earn, no matter how hard it might be. "I didn't do this just to get rid of a problem." You reply, your voice firm, "I did it because the game is bigger than just one man. This city is changing, and I need to know where you stand. Will you join me? Or will you try to take the power for yourself?" Her eyes narrow slightly, but she doesn't respond immediately. You can feel the wheels turning in her mind, her desire for revenge battling with her ambition. You've known her long enough to recognize that she won't be swayed easily. She'll want something more than just your word, and you'll have to offer more if you want her on your side. "I don't trust easily," she finally says, her voice steady, though there's an underlying edge to it. "And I don't follow anyone blindly, but you've shown you can play the game. And if you want me in this with you, you'll have to prove it. Prove that you can outsmart everyone else who's going to make a move on the nobleman's position. Prove that you're not just another pawn in the game, but someone who knows how to take what's theirs." You nod, understanding exactly what she's asking. Trust is hard to come by in this world, and even harder to maintain once it's earned. But you've already taken the first step in securing her loyalty, and now you need to show her that you're capable of more than just words. You need to show her that you're not just playing for the small stakes. You are aiming for something far greater. "I'll prove it," you say, your voice calm but unwavering. "But understand this, if you're in, there's no turning back. This isn't about just getting rid of one man. It's about reshaping the power structure of the city. It's about making sure that we control what happens next. And if you're with me, we'll make sure that no one can stand in our way." For a moment, she says nothing. The silence between you stretches out, thick with unspoken promises. Then, slowly, she leans forward, her gaze piercing. "I'm in," she says, her voice cold but resolute. "But remember, if you fail me, I'll be the first to see you taken down. Don't forget that." The weight of her words settles over you, but you remain unmoved. You've made the right choice. Her bitterness, her hunger for revenge, can be an asset. If you keep it in check, now, with her on your side, you're stronger, more dangerous. But you're also aware of the danger she poses if she feels betrayed. You'll need to keep her close, but never too close. As you leave the tavern, the weight of your decisions begins to settle in. You've secured another valuable piece on the board. But there's no time to relax. The city is still buzzing, and others are watching, waiting for their turn to make a move. You've taken down one player, but there are more out there, each one waiting for their chance to fill the void left by the nobleman. You have allies now, but the game is far from over. Your next move will need to be just as precise, just as calculated as the last. You can feel the pressure mounting as the web of power continues to shift around you. Every choice you make will shape the future of the city. One misstep could be your undoing. But for now, you've proven yourself capable. And that's all that matters. The city feels different now, heavier with the weight of what's to come. Every step you take, every decision you make, echoes through the streets like a ripple in a pond. The power dynamics are shifting, and you've secured yourself a place in the game. But the game is never easy. It's full of dangerous players, each with their own agenda, and one wrong move could end it all. With the former associate's loyalty in hand, you feel a new sense of confidence. But you also know that this world thrives on the unexpected. Power can be gained and lost in a single moment, and the pieces are constantly moving. You've made a few moves, but the next one must be even more calculated. You head back to your quarters to plan your next steps. The merchant is still a variable in the equation, but the former associate brings something more to the table, a deep, personal motivation to see certain people fall. That kind of passion is rare, and you can use it to your advantage. But you also know that she's driven by emotions, an unpredictable force that can either propel her forward or pull her into dangerous territory. You sit down at your desk, the dim light of the lantern casting shadows across the room, and you begin to map out the next move. The pieces are all in place for a larger confrontation, one that could cement your position as a rising power. You know the key is control. Controlling how the city views your actions and making sure that no one can trace your moves back to you. But controlling the narrative isn't just about silence. It's about carefully planted rumors, subtle moves in the right direction, and always staying 2 steps ahead of the competition. You need to make your next move count. It's time to shift your focus from securing allies to taking down your next target. There's someone else who stands in your way, a noble family who has begun to assert their influence in ways that could threaten everything you've built. They're becoming more outspoken, more ambitious, and their reach is growing. If they continue to rise, they could easily overshadow you. The noble family is ambitious. Yes, but they also have their own weaknesses. Like the nobleman you just eliminated, they've underestimated the undercurrents of power in this city. They think that their wealth and position alone will keep them safe, but they don't understand the delicate balance of control. The game isn't about money. It's about perception, alliances, and, above all, knowing when to strike. The next morning, you visit a small, discreet tavern on the edge of the city. It's a place where the city's most influential players, merchants, informants, even the occasional rogue, gather to exchange information. It's also a place where the rumors flow freely, and you can pick up valuable tidbits about who's moving against whom. You need to know the family's weaknesses, the cracks in their armor. As you step inside, the low murmur of conversation fades for just a moment as several heads turn to glance at you. You've been here before, but you're aware of the eyes on you today. Your reputation is growing, and it's only a matter of time before everyone knows who you are. You take a seat at a table in the back, where a familiar face waits, an informant who has been useful to you in the past. Well, he says, a sly grin crossing his face as he slides into the seat across from you. I hear you've been busy. Word is, someone's making waves. The nobleman's disappearance hasn't gone unnoticed. You don't respond immediately, instead letting him continue. He's not finished yet. The family you're worried about, they're growing bolder. Yes. But they've been making some mistakes. They've overstepped in a few places, pushed too hard. They're out of balance, and balance is everything here. You listen carefully, nodding slightly as you let him continue. They've got their sights on some of the more influential trade routes, but they're ignoring some old rivalries that are about to come back to bite them. I've heard whispers of a deal gone sour with some of their biggest allies. That could be your opening. You lean in slightly, your voice quiet but deliberate. Tell me more about these rivals. Who stands to gain from the family's fall? He hesitates for just a second, but then begins to speak. There's a merchant group on the outskirts of the city, a group that's been quietly gaining ground for a while. They've been taking small pieces of land, forming alliances with people you might not expect. They're not a threat on their own, but they're well positioned to move if the noble family falls, and they know it. They're waiting for the right moment to strike. You sit back, considering what he said. The merchant group could be the key. They're not powerful enough to make a direct move on their own, But if they're positioned correctly, they could play a major role in the downfall of the noble family. And if you align with them, you could position yourself as the ultimate power broker, using their influence to tear down the family from the inside. This could be your opening. You leave the tavern with a clear course of action. The pieces are starting to fall into place. The merchant group needs to be approached carefully. If you can win them over, if you can make them see that you're the person who can help them rise to power, they will be a powerful ally. But if you fail, you risk giving them a reason to ally with your enemies. Your next step is clear. You'll need to meet with the merchant group, make them see your value, and strike a deal that benefits both parties. But you also know that you'll need to move carefully. If the noble family learns of your intentions before you've secured the right allies, your plan could fail before it even begins. You feel the weight of the decisions pressing down on you. The clock is ticking. The game is still unfolding, and it's up to you to keep moving forward, to stay ahead of the others who are watching for the smallest sign of weakness. And as you make your way to meet with the merchant group, you realize that this is what it's all been leading to. The moment when you either rise to the top or become just another pawn in the game. You won't fail, not now. The merchant group's location is hidden away from the prying eyes of the city, tucked into the outskirts where the wealth and power of the elite don't extend. The walk to their headquarters feels like stepping into another world, a world of shadows, where power is quietly brokered behind closed doors. The streets grow narrower, the buildings less grand, the air a little thicker with secrets. It's a far cry from the opulent halls of the nobles, but it's here, among these hidden players, that you can make your next move. As you approach the building, a modest stone structure with only the faintest sign of activity, you pause for a moment, taking a deep breath. The merchant group is a small but significant player, and their influence could mean the difference between success and failure in the game you're playing. They're not known for being easily swayed, and they certainly won't bend to just anyone. They've been growing steadily, building relationships with the city's underbelly, carefully avoiding the attention of the noble families. You step forward, and as you approach the door, one of the group's members, someone you've met briefly in the past, opens it for you. His expression is guarded, but he steps aside without question. You've made the right impression before, and your reputation precedes you. Inside, the atmosphere is far more informal than the grand halls you've grown accustomed to. The air is filled with the scent of herbs, smoke, and the quiet murmur of negotiations in progress. A few members are already sitting at the large wooden table, waiting. You take your seat at the table, and the members turn their eyes toward you. They're dressed in simple but functional clothes, each one more interested in the goods on the table than the grandeur of their appearance. But there's power here, just beneath the surface. These are people who understand the game, but they're not yet playing on the grand stage. A woman with sharp eyes, the apparent leader of the group, takes the floor first. Her gaze doesn't falter, assessing you thoroughly as you settle into your seat. "I hear you've been making waves in the city," she says, her voice firm, but without a hint of unnecessary hostility. "The nobleman's death wasn't just an accident, was it? You've been moving in ways that have caught the attention of more than just your enemies. What's your endgame, exactly?" You meet her gaze, unflinching. "My endgame is simple," you reply, "power, control. I know that to make it in this city, you have to understand the currents beneath the surface. The noble family's influence is weakening, and there's an opening. I can offer you the chance to capitalize on that. Together, you help me, I help you, we take control, and no one can stop us." She watches you for a long moment, clearly evaluating your words. The others at the table exchange looks, silently communicating their thoughts. You can tell they're wary but intrigued. Your plan, if executed correctly, could be exactly what they need to make their next move. You've shown them that you're capable, but now you need to show them that you're someone who can be trusted. "The noble family isn't something to take lightly," the woman says, leaning forward. "They've got their own set of powerful allies, and the last thing we need is to make them our enemies. You're asking us to gamble with our future. What makes you think you can deliver?" You lean in slightly, your voice calm but resolute. "Because I know how to move the pieces. I've already removed one threat to our plans. The family is vulnerable, and I know exactly how to exploit that vulnerability. But I can't do it alone. We need each other if we want to reshape the power structure of this city." She doesn't respond right away. Instead, she stands and walks around the table, her steps measured and deliberate. The silence in the room is thick, and you can feel the tension rising. This is the moment that could define everything. If she decides that you're the right partner, you'll have the power you need. If she doesn't, you'll have to find another way. After what feels like an eternity, she stops and turns to face you. "All right," she says, her voice steady. "We'll work together, But understand this, the moment you show any sign of weakness, any hesitation, you'll be discarded. This is not a game of second chances. If we're in, we're all in. And when the time comes, you better be prepared to do whatever it takes to win. You nod, feeling the weight of her words. This is the world you've stepped into. There's no room for mistakes. The price of failure is too high. We'll be ready, you say. And we'll make sure that no one can take what's ours. With that, the deal is made. The merchant group is now a key part of your strategy. The pieces are falling into place, but the game is far from over. The noble family won't go down easily, and there are other players out there, quietly waiting for their chance to strike. But for now, you have what you need: an ally, a partner who understands the game, and the opportunity to move forward. You leave the merchant group's headquarters with a sense of purpose. The next phase of the plan is in motion. The city is still full of danger, full of people who will try to undermine you, but you've proven that you know how to handle yourself. You feel the shift in the air, the subtle change as the game progresses. The city is on the cusp of something new, something you will control, but that control won't come easily. You've made your move, but now it's time to outmaneuver the others. The stakes have never been higher. You're no longer just part of the game, you're shaping it. The next few days unfold in a whirlwind of strategy and calculation. With the merchant group now at your side, you feel a surge of momentum, but it's tempered by the understanding that the true battle is still ahead. You've made the right move by aligning with them, but the game is far from won. Every action you take now is a carefully measured step, each one designed to position you where you need to be when the time comes. The noble family remains a looming presence, their influence still intact, but cracks are beginning to show. You've planted the seeds of discontent among their allies, whispered rumors, subtle shifts in the flow of information, all working to erode their foundation. They're still too confident, still too sure of their position in the city, but that arrogance will be their downfall. They don't see the forces moving against them, the way the shadows are beginning to close in. You spend your days meeting with various players, informants, low-ranking nobles, and even a few rival factions who've begun to circle the noble family like vultures. Everyone smells the blood in the water, and soon, they'll begin to make their moves. You need to be ready to strike before anyone else does, to solidify your position and ensure that when the dust settles, you're the one standing at the top. But you also know that in this world, the walls have ears. Every conversation, every deal made, is subject to scrutiny. Even the smallest misstep could lead to betrayal, and betrayal is something you can't afford. The city is full of spies, of eyes watching you from the shadows. You've learned to be cautious, to speak in veiled terms, and leave nothing to chance. The game is played with subtlety now, with whispers and shadows, not bold actions or grand speeches. Your next meeting is with a contact who has the ear of someone inside the noble family, a servant who knows more than she lets on. She's terrified of being caught, of being discovered, but her information is invaluable. You meet her at an isolated tavern on the outskirts of the city, a place where few people come, and even fewer are missed. She's waiting for you, nervously glancing around as you approach. Her eyes are wide with fear, but she doesn't say a word as you sit down across from her. You don't waste time with pleasantries. You've made it clear that you're not here to waste time. Tell me everything you know about their plans. You say quietly, your voice steady. I know they're planning something big, and I need to know what it is. She glances around once more, making sure no one is watching before she finally speaks, her voice barely above a whisper. They're moving quickly, she says. The family is consolidating power, making new alliances with merchants and nobles alike. But there's something else, something they don't want anyone to know. They've been meeting in private with someone outside the city. A group of mercenaries, hired muscle. They've been bringing them in slowly. Under the radar, they're preparing for something. A conflict. I don't know exactly what, but they're planning for war. And they won't hesitate to use force if they think it will secure their place. You sit back, absorbing the information. The noble family isn't just consolidating their power, they're fortifying it, preparing for something more than just political maneuvering. They're preparing for a conflict, and you suspect that they might be ready to take things further than anyone expects. The city isn't just a battleground of influence anymore. It's becoming a war of attrition, a slow, burning conflict that's ready to erupt at any moment. Do you know who's leading these meetings? You ask, your mind already working through the implications of what she's told you. She shakes her head, clearly frightened. I don't know their names, they've been careful, but they're getting closer to the family's inner circle. The mercenaries aren't just hired help, They're being woven into the fabric of the family's plans. If they move forward with this, everything will change. The city won't just be at the mercy of one family, it will be a battleground, and I'm not sure anyone will survive it. You nod slowly, processing the information. This is the breaking point. The noble family isn't just trying to maintain control, they're preparing for an open conflict, a war for power that will change the very structure of the city. This is the moment you've been waiting for, the point at which you need to act. If you don't stop them now, they'll drag the entire city into chaos. But you can't act without knowing more, without understanding the full scope of their plans. Thank you, you say quietly, standing up. You've done well, but you need to leave the city. They'll come for you if they find out you've been talking to me. Get out before it's too late. Her eyes widen, but she doesn't hesitate. She stands and quickly exits the tavern, disappearing into the shadows. You watch her leave, knowing that this is the last time you'll see her. She's done her part, and now you'll have to do yours. The pieces are in motion. You've learned that the noble family is preparing for war, but you don't know how far they've gone or who they've brought into their fold. You'll need to find out more, and fast. Time is running out, and the stakes have never been higher. You leave the tavern and head back to your quarters, your mind racing with possibilities. The city is on the brink of something terrible, something you've been working toward, but you don't want a war. You want control, and the only way to secure that control is to ensure that the noble family doesn't get the upper hand. You need to act, but you need to do it carefully. The next move is crucial. You've already proven yourself capable of making bold decisions, but this one requires a level of subtlety, of manipulation, that you've yet to fully test. The future of the city, and your place within it, hangs in the balance. The game is reaching its climax. It's time to make your final play. The city feels like a powder keg, and every step you take seems to bring you closer to the spark that will set it all off. The noble family is making its preparations, and you now know that war is on the horizon. But you're not interested in chaos, you're interested in control. You need to stay ahead of them, outmaneuver them, and secure your place before the city tears itself apart. The information you've gathered from the servant has opened a new door. The family's plan is ambitious, and they've moved beyond simple political maneuvers. The mercenaries they've hired are only the tip of the iceberg. They're assembling a force that could overwhelm anyone who stands in their way. But they're not invincible. They've made mistakes, and they've underestimated the complexity of the game they're playing. Now, it's your turn to capitalize on their missteps. You gather your allies, the merchant group, the former associate, and the few other key players who've been keeping their distance, but are ready to act when the time comes. You meet in a secluded, dimly lit room, far away from prying eyes. There's an air of urgency, but also a shared understanding. The city is changing, and those who don't act quickly will be swept aside. We've learned that the noble family is moving faster than we anticipated, you say, addressing the group. But they've overextended themselves. They're preparing for a conflict, but they've made mistakes. We have to make sure they don't see us coming. If we act too quickly, they'll have time to retaliate. But if we wait too long, the city will burn, and we'll be left picking up the pieces. The room is silent for a moment as the group processes your words. Finally, the leader of the merchant group speaks up, her voice calm but serious. So, what's the plan? We can't take them on head to head. They've got mercenaries, and their influence is still far-reaching. But we can't afford to sit on the sidelines either. We need to strike when they're vulnerable. You nod, acknowledging her point. Exactly. We won't go after them directly. Instead, we need to destabilize their alliances, make their supporters question their leadership. We know they've already made enemies, but they've been too focused on their own ambitions to see who's watching. We need to start working those relationships, feeding information, spreading doubt. We'll make sure their allies start turning on them. The former associate leans forward, her eyes alight with the same fire that's driven her since you first met her. And when their allies start to crumble, we'll make our move. But we can't afford to wait too long. We need a trigger. Something that will push the right people over the edge. You think for a moment, considering the options. The mercenaries. You say finally. That's where we start. They think they've got hired muscle to intimidate the city, but mercenaries are loyal only as long as the money flows. If we can disrupt their supply lines, if we can make the mercenaries start questioning the family's ability to pay, they'll start to waver. And when that happens, the noble family's entire plan starts to unravel. The merchant leader raises an eyebrow. And how do you propose we disrupt their supply lines without getting caught? You won't. You say calmly. The merchant group will handle that. Start pulling strings in the right places. You have the contacts to divert shipments, to alter trade routes, without anyone noticing. The mercenaries will start seeing their supplies dwindle. They won't know who to blame at first, but soon enough, they'll realize they're not getting paid the way they were promised. And when that happens, they'll start looking for someone to turn to. The former associate nods slowly, her eyes narrowing with purpose. I see what you're doing. You want the mercenaries to feel like they have no choice but to defect, to turn on the noble family. Exactly, you reply. Once we've planted the seeds of doubt, we start feeding rumors about the noble family's weaknesses. We'll make sure their enemies know when to strike, and when the mercenaries turn, the city will erupt. The leader of the merchant group finally speaks, her voice cautious but intrigued. It's a risky plan, but it could work, if we time it right. You stand up, your resolve hardening. We'll time it right, but we need to move quickly. The longer we wait, the more time the noble family has to consolidate their position. We'll take the first step today, start moving the pieces into place. With that, the group disperses, each person heading to their respective roles. There's a buzz in the air, a sense of urgency, but also a shared understanding. The pieces are falling into place. It's not just about disrupting the noble family's plans, it's about making sure they never see it coming. You've played your cards carefully, and now you need to stay one step ahead of everyone else. The next few days are a blur of activity. You move through the shadows, orchestrating the plan with precision. The merchant group works its network, quietly rerouting shipments, while you work behind the scenes to spread subtle rumors. You speak to the right people, plant seeds of doubt in the ears of those who might be persuaded to turn on the noble family. The former associate keeps watch over the family's inner circle, feeding you information whenever possible. Every move you make is designed to destabilize the family's power without them ever realizing what's happening until it's too late. And then, as you predicted, the first cracks appear. The mercenaries, once loyal, begin to show signs of unrest. The shipments they depend on are slower to arrive, their pay is delayed, and whispers of betrayal begin to spread. The noble family's arrogance is their downfall. They assumed their wealth and power could control everything. But in this game, control is always temporary. By the time the noble family realizes what's happening, it's too late. The mercenaries are already looking for another employer, and their allies are starting to pull away. The city's pulse quickens as the power shifts. You've made your move, and the game is changing. You stand at the center of it all, knowing that the next few days will determine whether you rise to the top or are swallowed by the chaos. You've destabilized your enemies, but now you have to finish what you've started. The noble family is crumbling, but in their fall, new opportunities arise. The city is on the brink of something bigger, and now, it's your turn to step into the light. The first tremors of the shifting power begin to spread through the city, like cracks in the foundation of a building about to collapse. The mercenaries, once loyal to the noble family, are now scattered. Some are already in talks with rival factions, while others look to the shadows, unsure of where their next paycheck will come from. The noble family's allies, sensing the instability, are starting to distance themselves, their loyalties wavering as uncertainty fills the air. The city is on the edge, and it's only a matter of time before everything explodes. You stand at the center of it all, watching from the shadows as the pieces you've set in motion begin to fall into place. Your plan is working, but the work isn't over yet. You've managed to weaken the noble family's position, but their power isn't gone, not yet. They still have influence, still have resources, and if you hesitate now, they could rally and push back. You can't let that happen. The key now is to push them over the edge, to make sure that when they fall completely. You've destabilized their mercenaries, weakened their alliances, and sown distrust among their supporters. But now, you need to turn the tide completely in your favor. You meet with your closest allies, the merchant group, the former associate, and a few others who have been invaluable in getting you to this point. You know that now is the time to take decisive action, to capitalize on the opportunity that's just within your reach. We can't wait much longer, you say, addressing the group. The noble family is teetering on the edge. If we wait, someone else will step in to take their place. We need to move quickly to secure the city before they can regroup. The merchant leader, her eyes sharp and calculating, nods in agreement. I've heard whispers that other families are starting to make moves. The vacuum is real, and we're not the only ones looking to capitalize. If we're going to act, it has to be now. The former associate, her voice colder than ever, adds. And once we do, we'll need to make sure there's no chance for them to rise again. They've shown their hand. They've exposed their weaknesses, and we'll make sure those weaknesses are exploited. You pause for a moment, taking in the gravity of the situation. There's no turning back now. The city is on the verge of change, and you're the one who will determine how that change takes shape. The noble family's fall is imminent, but you need to be the one who capitalizes on it. If you do this right, the city will be yours to shape. We'll move at night, you say, the plan forming in your mind. While they're still trying to hold their ground, we'll strike. We'll move in quickly, take control of the key assets, the businesses, the trade routes, the alliances they relied on, and make sure that no one can fill the power vacuum they've left. We'll ensure the city's future is ours, not anyone else's. The group nods in unison, each person understanding their role in what's to come. The former associate will keep watch on the family's remaining supporters, making sure that no one moves against you. The merchant group will continue to solidify control over the trade routes, ensuring that the flow of goods and resources remains under your control. And you'll take control of the narrative. You'll be the one who decides what the city sees, what it believes, and who it trusts. As the night begins to fall, you prepare to make your move. The city is still, its pulse slowing as the day fades into evening. But inside you, the tension builds every moment. Every step you take is part of the plan. The pieces are in place. Now it's time to act. You move swiftly through the city streets, blending into the shadows, your mind sharp, your resolve hardening with every step. You've already made the connections, forged the alliances, and destabilized your enemies. Now, you need to move before anyone else gets the chance. The noble family's residence looms ahead. Their once imposing walls now feeling smaller, less significant. You know that they're still inside, still holding on to their fragile grip on power. But that grip is slipping, and it's only a matter of time before the city turns on them completely. You need to be the one who pushes them over the edge. You slip inside the estate with ease, moving silently through the hallways, your heart steady, your mind focused. The noble family's key assets, books, documents, letters of allegiance, are kept in a vault beneath the main hall. The documents there hold the power to bring their entire house crashing down. But you can't risk getting caught. You know this is a delicate operation, one that must be executed with precision. The vault door creaks open, and you step inside. You begin sifting through the papers, carefully selecting the ones that will ensure their downfall. Letters that prove their alliances were weak, contracts that expose their financial ties to mercenaries, and evidence of their desperation to maintain power. You gather them quickly, making sure to leave no trace of your presence. As you make your way back through the estate, you hear footsteps, distant but approaching. You freeze, listening carefully. The family's guards are still patrolling, still trying to protect what's left of their power. You slip into the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to move again. When the coast is clear, you exit the estate, the weight of the documents heavy in your hands. These papers are the key. They'll be the final blow to the noble family's already crumbling position. Once you release them, their last hope for survival will evaporate. You return to your quarters, the night air cold against your skin, but your heart burns with the knowledge that the game is almost won. The city is yours for the taking. With the noble family's secrets in hand, you can make sure no one can stand in your way. The final act is almost here. The pieces have moved, the players are set, and the city's future rests in your hands. It's time to finish what you've started.